It's Delaware for Thursday, March 21st. I'm Peter MacArthur. Time for us to check on the job market and your place potentially in it. We're checking in with Chris Burkhard, Placer Staffing in Newark this morning. As always, Chris, good morning. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me on, Pete. It's always fun.
Yeah, that it is. Let me start here. There's this entire workplace lingo, right, that's really becoming much more than just a fad. I'm talking about things like great resignation and quiet quitting and even coffee badging. And they appear to be kind of going viral. But within all that, what's maybe the important message in this for all of us?
I think there is a really important message. We all know the pandemic changed everything, right? It had a huge impact on the world of work and how we view careers. And Americans, deservedly so, have experienced some work-life balance. Well, man, now there's this movement to return to office. A lot of companies are enforcing hybrid schedules. And I think the most important message for workers and employers, and what we all need to think about and hear, is that employees got a feel for that flexibility. And they got some balance in their career, and they liked it. And let's face it, this is a world of social media. Where do we tell our stories? Where do we sometimes get our information when we're not listening to Pete on the radio, right? And they sense that they're losing some ground, or at least fighting for the ground that they've earned. So there's been this upswell of potential frustration. And I think if you will allow, some of the Great Resignation. I mean, that was that trend of voluntary exits of employees. I don't think people have ever felt that empowered, that they had choices. And that was emboldened because, as we'll talk about, jobs were easier to come by. There were wage increases. And, so that's been ongoing. The coffee badging one is like, I didn't know what that was until I started to research this to talk to you. But it's a creative way that workers are coming into the office with their badge. They're having coffee. They're swiping in. And I think the not so funny part is that they're going home to get real work done, because being in the office is, distracting or hard, or it doesn't allow for flexibility. And then the quiet quitting, which I think, I'm old enough to think I didn't label it as such, but I think I experienced it. That's where folks are just a little frustrated with the work environment. They're doing just enough to get by, kind of a mild work stoppage. I worked for a manufacturing plant when I was a teenager, and I remember my group saying, "Hey, Chris, slow down just a little bit." So I don't think that's new. But I think in this world of social media, people are going to these platforms to tell their stories.
Yeah, they're very interesting, certainly. I would be remiss having you on the line and not asking you about any insights you might have from most recent economic data around job creation and unemployment and all that kind of stuff, Chris.
Well, I think I love words, and I did not coin this phrase. I saw this the other day. But, Pete, welcome to the trapped-in-place economy.
All right.
The story, that basically it's this. If you like your house, your car, and your job, you're golden. But with interest rates being high, it's harder to get that new car or buy and sell your home. And, I'm more of the jobs guy. But the headline is, hey, it's still steady hiring. Wages aren't going up as much, but it's not quite as easy for many to land the job as it was over the last 4 years. The time that once measured in days or hours now simply takes longer. Yeah. And, the real numbers behind it is there's still a lot of jobs created, 275,000 jobs. Unemployment did go up a bit. But what's really interesting, you and I touched on this last month. January is always a volatile job picture, and that was restated down rather radically by over 100,000 jobs. So this is not your pandemic job market. It's a balanced one. It's not a hiring frenzy. Employers are doing more with less, and job seekers are finding a really competitive landscape if they're out job hunting right now.
Let me get your impressions on this, and I wouldn't ask you this if I didn't think you were equipped to answer, but you raised a reminder to me about something one of my friends was talking to me about the other day, where he applied for a job, and I guess they had one of these, the potential employer had one of these like auto filters on, and almost immediately he submits his stuff online, almost immediately gets, the rejection letter. And what I'm wondering is, with technology, Why is it, does it appear, that employers seem to be taking longer to ultimately hire people who apply for their jobs?
Well, thank you for feeling that I'd be comfortable just speaking on my feet. I'm very comfortable with it. I think what I have found is that there's a psychology to everything.
Yeah.
And the psychology in this shift is that this isn't that feeding frenzy, if you will allow. So it was so competitive that you didn't want to be left out to hire. So what's the psychology of the moment? Well, we read every day, we hear every day. I'm talking about that things are less frenetic, that it's a more balanced and normalized job search. So I think hiring managers hear that. But during times like this, supply and demand is balancing out a little bit. And I'm seeing employers, if they have 13 characteristics they're looking for a job, they're looking for all 13. 3 years ago, Pete, I would have got hired with 7 of them.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is do I need to explain to you that there's a commitment to AI like we've all never seen before? And I think technology for many large employers is supporting the hiring process. So my next point to you is actually, I'll just answer one of the questions about what do you need to do in a post-pandemic job search?
Yeah.
Is your resume has to be tailored so specifically to a job. If you have one resume and you send it to 10 jobs, then you're most likely going to get a rejection letter. It's got to be tailored perfectly. And I think you have to know somebody at that place of employment. I still think it's best Pete, can I give you my resume and could you walk it down the hall? I still think humans get things done in this technology world. Not everywhere, but most places.
Yeah. Any other tidbits in terms of the important things that we should be keeping in mind? And I think it's safe to call this a post-pandemic situation we're in now. When we are talking about a job search, you're in the mix. You're in the heart of this whole thing. Some specifics on, what we should be kind of focused on, prepared for?
Yeah, Pete, I'm surprised at the number of folks that work their tail off, if you will allow, and they get a series of interviews. And they say, I really know myself. I'm good. I don't need to prepare. So I think that's a really important thing, and that there's the internet today, and then there's resources, and you can call me. But practicing how you answer questions is not fake. It's presenting your best self. And I really encourage people, you work so hard to be a great engineer or a great accountant or a great whatever you are. It doesn't mean at the critical moment you're going to be able to convey your story. So there's all kinds of techniques, but my team gave me one to talk about, and it's that you're going to be asked a question about, tell me about a service situation. And you need to be able to talk about that situation, talk about the action you took, and then the result that you got. So there are all kinds of techniques with anything to get you ready. But don't just show up and think because you're really good with words that you're going to nail the interview.
That's fantastic, because think about that. I can see the room where the employer asks the candidate such a question, and you can see the wheels turning in that candidate's head because they're trying to do it on the fly. And it's not a good look.
No, and I think it doesn't honor the format.
Yeah.
But if you say, thank you, I'm prepared to talk about that, there's something wonderful about that. The other thing is a lot of folks get a job and then they stop thinking about relationships and networking. And that's okay. But I just preach, and we preach, that who do you need to build relationships within your employer? You're in an industry. Do you have a trade show or some sort of user group or some exchange group that you get involved with? I really like to see people maximize their relationships for the management of their career. You have to know people in other departments and in other business units in order to learn about your company so that you know how to manage your own career, because there is no one typically who's going to do that for you. So go forge those relationships, have lunch and coffee with folks all over the business and within your industry. And that's just something that we don't do, unfortunately, unless we think like, my division isn't doing so well, or my department looks like it's not going to, be shaped the way it is. We do it last minute, and you can't get anything done that way. You can do it if you do it, as a part of your week and month.
Yeah, certainly. Let's go out with this. We haven't talked about this in a while. People listening are saying, this Chris Burkhard, he knows his stuff. But let's talk about, real quick, myplacers.com and what people can find out a bit about how you're putting this knowledge to work on a daily basis, helping people out, Chris.
I'd be happy to. Second generation in the business. We've been in Delaware for over 50 years. I think I've shared with this, but I think we've helped over 100,000 Delawareans either get a job or with the kind of stuff that we're talking about. Pretty easy to find on social media or on the web, but myplacers.com. And honestly, if you're thinking about any of this stuff as an employee and you just want some help navigating it, great. We're pretty good brokers. I think one of the things, I meet a lot of great, talented people, but they're not quite sure how to get the door open or to get that lead for things. Yep. So we'll help you. And we put a ton of people to work, Pete.
Very good. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much for the time, but more importantly, for the information. Good stuff this morning.
Have a great day.
You too. Chris Burkhard, Placer Staffing in Newark. You can check, as we mentioned, myplacers.com to find out more.